with that, I am going to call this meeting to order. We're going to work through a couple issues that we have while we're working on this. Are there still any empty seats?
Singles.
We got, so how many singles do we got? Hold them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 4 over here. 4 over here. All right, I can take, Tim, if you want to send 5 registered voters into the main room, we got seats for them over here. I'm going to go make sure Tim can hear. Meeting to order. If you want to spread out a little bit, you can. We do have a little bit of extra space, but the overflow room is actually got quite a few people over there as well. So we're going to make sure that Pat, I still can't see him. It can't be angled anyway.
It was angled up. I don't know if he's standing in front of it anymore.
Yeah, it was angled it's angled the opposite way. Tim, I don't know if hopefully you can hear me, but if you can move the screen down so I can see you. There you go. There you are. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Okay, so as I explained, we are in an overflow situation. I know it's crowded in here, and I'm already starting off angry because you all made me lose a bet. My thought was we were not actually going to need the overflow room because we weren't spending money. So I lost that bet, and I'm angry. So keep that in mind as we're going. But please, 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 I don't want to have to call people out of order or have people removed from the room, but crosstalk, cheering, applauding, that kind of stuff, not needed, not wanted, not warranted. We really, really need to keep the room as quiet as possible so that everyone can hear and that we can keep this meeting running in order. So we need a few things in order to have a valid meeting. The first is a signed warrant. The second is quorum. I think we got it. We have our town clerk and myself, Keith Menard, the moderator. Okay. We are going to pretend that we have a signed warrant. And I will verify that the warrant is signed after the meeting tomorrow to verify. Are there any issues with that? Any dissent to that being what we're going to do tonight? Okay, great. Then we will move on. Wear these only because the lighting is really bad up here and not because I'm old and have poor eyesight. So our non-resident meetings, we have our town employees, our town attorney. Is there any? Wow, I can't do that. All right. Is there any dissent to allowing them to speak at this meeting to provide expertise as we go? Okay, seeing none, they will be allowed to speak. I'd also like to recognize the Finance Committee, if you could stand up really quickly. They help to present the budget as well as the flyer with recommendations. And then some of the people who make town meeting possible are counters, Don Postma, Hannah Postma, Pam Carter, Max Postma, Dan Tassino, Phil Smith, and Kathy Landers. We have our checkers, Lois Garrison, Pam Carter, Kathy Landers, and Jen Larson. Our constable, Carol Field, Ben Tassino. Our mic runners, Izzy Menard, and you said you were going to do it. Where did you go, Phil? There we go. Or not Phil, Fred Fontaine. Fontainer. We got it?
Yep.
It's going to be a long night, guys. Bear with me. So a little bit about how town meeting will be run. There'll be a motion made and seconded. There'll be a proponent speech if necessary. Then we'll move on to question and answer. Please wait for the microphone to arrive to you. I know that some people like myself can say, well, I'll just speak really loudly. It doesn't work because we also video these meetings as part of our bylaws, and we need to make sure that everything is recorded well as everybody can hear in both rooms. So please wait for the microphone to get to you. State your name and address. Direct all questions to the moderator. So crosstalk like, well, Bill just said something dumb. Not okay. This moderator, I think that was dumb. Borderline. So that's the way that works. So that we don't get into discussions between each other. After you have asked your question, please hand the mic back to the mic runner and wait for the question to be answered. If we have time and things are flowing well enough, I may ask if there's a follow-up, but we are going to be severely limited on time tonight, so I do want to make sure that we are delving into the issues thoroughly, but I do not want to get into repetition and waste time so that we wind up running into the wee hours of the night. After Q&A, we'll move on to debate. Again, direct all debate to the moderator. After debate is exhausted or the question is called, which does need a 2/3 vote. When somebody says, I call the question, that means you're ready to vote. You don't want to hear from anyone else, you're ready. That needs a 2/3 vote. You must be recognized to call the question, so just yelling out, I call the question, is not going to work. Votes will be taken by unanimous consent, probably not on Article 1. Voice vote, counted vote, and it depends on how we're going to go ahead and do that. If we are doing a standing count vote, which I do expect for some of the articles, I will ask you to stand and hold up your placard to make it easier for them to count. You'll be seated, and the no votes will do the same. At that point, we'll tally up the votes. There's going to be a lot of votes. So again, your patience will be necessary here. Sometimes I will take a motion from the floor if it's the same as what is in the warrant. So that will sound something like, I'll take a motion from the floor to move the article as printed in the warrant, and then we'll move on from there. Again, that would need a second, and then sometimes we'll say, is there a dissent to passing the article unanimously? If there is none, that article will be considered passed unanimously. Amendments must be submitted in writing. They should be made after Q&A, in other words, during debate. You must be recognized to make the motion, and the motion must be deemed within scope. Scope is basically determined by myself only, and it is my best judgment over whether or not the townspeople were warned that that particular subject could be discussed and voted on at town meeting. So please keep in mind, while what we're doing is serious and has both long-term and short-term impacts to all of us, we are all neighbors. The keyboards are not in front of us right now, so please be respectful. Enjoy the process. It truly is a great one. And I do want to remind everyone that when we gather here, this is a legislature, and you are all legislators. And initially I was going to say in my little speech that please act accordingly, and then I thought about how some of our legislatures act, so I'm going to ask you to act better. So with that, if you are able to stand, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. is there any dissent to dispensing with the reading of the warrant? Seeing none, not read the entire warrant. So I just gave you guys a speech about how town meeting will be run. Article 1 and 2 will be treated slightly different in order to try. Man, how do people with bifocals do that? In order to try to maintain order and keep things moving, I am altering the process just a little bit. So I'll accept the motion, and then I will actually begin to read the article. During the reading of Article 1, I will be accepting amendments from the proposers. Those amendments have been submitted to me ahead of time and have been vetted for scope. I'll accept the motion to accept the amendment by unanimous consent. If it's not accepted by unanimous consent, then there'll be a proponent speech, a Q&A, debate, and a vote on the amendment only. So please keep in mind when we're debating amendments that it is not about the main motion at that point. If the motion is accepted, that becomes part of the main motion. If it is not, then we revert back to the original language. And I'll try to keep that clear as we go. Once we move into Q&A and debate, please remember, questions are just that. They are, I didn't understand something, I was curious what the rationale was. It is a question. You will have time to debate the issue and say, I think this is a good idea, or I think this is a bad idea later on, not during Q&A. Q&A is for questions. Just a reminder to keep it concise, on point, and if your question has already been asked, or your point has already been made, please allow the process to continue so that we can continue on with the meeting. Just a reminder, you do need to be recognized to speak. Priority will be given to registered voters. Please display your card when looking to be recognized. State your name and address after speaking. Hand the mic back. We already went through all of that. So the last thing I'm going to do is accept a motion to allow non-registered speakers to non-registered residents of the town speaking rights after all of those registered voters have been exhausted, if there's time allowed. Is there any dissent to that? Okay, seeing none, that will be allowed. Okay, and with that, I'm going to begin reading the motion. At the end of reading the motion, I'm going to accept a motion to limit Q&A as well as debate, and we'll get there when we get there. But as of now, let's get the reading glasses going. So I will accept the following motion, and we'll start with to adopt the following right to farm bylaw under the authority of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 21, and Chapter 40A, Section 3. Right to farm bylaw. The town of Douglas hereby adopts this right to farm bylaw pursuant to Article 89 of the Massachusetts Constitution and in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 21, and Chapter 40A, Section 3. This bylaw is intended to reaffirm the town's support for agriculture and farming and to notify residents that Douglas is a right to farm community. This bylaw seeks to maintain and preserve agricultural lands, promote agricultural-based economic opportunities, and protect the rights of commercial farmers and residents engaged in hobby farming for enjoyment, education, and for self-sufficiency. Section 2, definition. Farming or agriculture shall include, as defined in Mass General Law, Chapter 128, Section 1A, farming in all of its branches and the cultivation and tillage of the soil, dairying, the production, cultivation, growing, and harvesting of any agricultural, aquacultural, floricultural, or horticultural commodities, the growing and harvesting of forest products upon forest land, the raising of livestock, including horses, the keeping of horses as a commercial enterprise, the keeping and raising of poultry, swine, cattle, and other domesticated animals used for food purposes, bees, and any forestry or lumbering operations performed by a farmer who who is hereby defined as one engaged in agriculture or farming as herein defined, or on a farm as an incident to or in conjunction with such farming operations, including preparations for market, delivery to storage, and to market or to carriers for transportation to market. It shall also include on-farm marketing and signage, storage, and processing, as well as disposal of agricultural byproducts. Section 2 continued. Farming shall encompass activities including but not limited to the following: operation and transportation of slow-moving farm equipment over roads within the town, harvesting of crops according to generally accepted agricultural practices, control of pests, including but not limited to insects, weeds, predators, and diseased organisms of plants and animals in regulation with state guidelines. Conducting agricultural-related education and farm-based recreational activities, including agritourism, provided that the activities are related to marketing the agricultural output or services of the farm. Tillage, cultivation, and application of manure, fertilizers, and pesticides, processing and packaging of the agricultural output of the farm, and the operation of a farmer's market or farm stand, including signage thereto in accordance with local and state regulations. Maintenance, repair, or storage of seasonal equipment, apparatus owned or leased by the farm owner or managed, used expressly for the purposes of propagation, processing, land management activities, or sale of the agricultural products. On farm relocation of earth, the clearing of ground for farming operation in accordance with local and state regulations. Construction and use of farm structures and facilities for the purpose of storage or animal waste, farm equipment, pesticides, fertilizers, agricultural products, season extension or hydroponic production of agricultural product, sale of agricultural products, construction and maintenance of all fences, all as permitted by local and state building codes and regulations. Section 3. Right to Farm Declaration. The right to farm is hereby recognized to exist within the town of Douglas. The right to farm includes the right to undertake agriculture and related activities in accordance with generally accepted agricultural practices, even if such operation may cause incidental noise, odors, dust, or other impacts traditionally associated with farming. Agricultural activities may occur on holidays, weekends, weekdays, and by day or night as needed. It is hereby determined that whatever impact may be caused to others through the normal practice of agriculture is more than offset by the benefits of farming to the neighborhood, community, and society in general. The benefits and protections of the bylaw are intended to apply to those in both commercial and non-commercial agricultural and farming operation and activities conducted in accordance with generally accepted agricultural practices. Moreover, nothing in this right to farm bylaw shall be deemed as requiring any interest in land or as imposing any land use restrictions, which properly the subject of state statute, regulation, or local zoning law. The bylaw does not supersede private covenants. Section 3 continued. This right includes without limitation operation of farm machinery, composting and manure management, on-farm processing and marketing of products in accordance with state and local laws, raising of livestock to include but not limited to horses, cows, swine, rarities such as emus, ostriches, and rheas. Someone's going to have to explain to me what a rhea is later. Camelids such as llamas and alpacas, bees, chickens, ducks, geese, guinea fowl, goats, and sheep in accordance with state and veterinary welfare guidelines. Note that the current Board of Health regulation of no more than 4 swine on less than 5 acres remains in effect. A special variance from the Board of Health is possible with public hearing and agricultural management. Section 4, protection from nuisance claims. No agricultural or farming activity conducted in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 111, subsection or Section 128A, and consistent with Mass General Law, Chapter 243, Section 6 shall be considered a nuisance. Agricultural activities that are conducted in compliance with applicable state laws and regulation and according to generally accepted agricultural practices shall not be deemed nuisances due to changes in surrounding land use. The right to farm bylaw protects equally properties above and below 5 acres of land. Now I'm now going to accept a motion to amend Section 4 to strike this right to farm bylaw protects equally properties above and below 5 acres of needed land, and substitute that with this right to farm bylaw protects properties above 5 acres or above 2 acres by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals used for commercial farming and properties of any lot size used for hobby, recreational, and non-commercial farming. This is where somebody says so moved. Thank you. And a second? Okay, so we are now on this proposed amendment only. Is there any dissent to passing this amendment? Now, when I say passing this amendment, just for clarification, that doesn't mean that the whole thing passes. It just means that this amendment becomes part of what we'll be discussing later as a whole. Is there any dissent to accepting that amendment? There is dissent, so we will now go on to a proponent speech on the amendment. Speech. We'll move on to question and answer for Lori and Hunter, who are the main proponents of the article as a whole, as this is a citizen's petition, and then afterwards we'll move on to debate. Rebecca?
This is Dallas, not Hunter.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Dallas, I got it. I'm going to do that a lot tonight.
This amendment is necessary because when the town council reviewed the right to farm bylaw, they were only able to interpret it through a commercial lens due to the fact that Douglas has never had anything in writing defining non-commercial agriculture. Because of this, they were worried that the Attorney General Office could find conflict between the right to farm bylaw and Douglas's current zoning bylaw. We propose to amend the sentence, this right to farm bylaw protects equally properties above and below 5 acres of deeded land, to the proposed amendment verbiage on the screen, to completely align with Douglas's current zoning bylaw. Doing this just clarifies that the land requirements for commercial farming are remaining as they already are in our zoning bylaw and state laws, and that hobby farming will continue to be conducted in town without any minimum requirements on parcel size, which should prevent the Attorney General's office from finding any conflict.
Did you have a question or a point of order? You have a question, okay?
You didn't hear it.
So just as a reminder, you'll stand, state your name, and then ask the question.
It's Mike Boyle, 33 Vine Street. So I couldn't hear her. The whole beginning of what she said was unclear to me, so can she read it again?
Okay, and so that would be a point of order, just so you know, for the future.
Sure. All right, take two. Is it better? Yes. Okay. This amendment is necessary because when the town council reviewed the right to farm bylaw, they were only able to interpret it through a commercial lens due to the fact that Douglas has never had anything in writing defining non-commercial agriculture. Because of this, they were worried the Attorney General's office could find conflict between the right to farm bylaw and Douglas's current zoning bylaw. We propose to amend the sentence, as on the screen, to completely align with Douglas's current zoning bylaw. Doing this just clarifies that the land requirements for commercial farming are remaining as they already are in our zoning bylaw and state laws, and that hobby farming will continue to be conducted in town without any minimum requirements on parcel size, which should prevent the Attorney General's office from finding any conflict.
Okay, questions on this amendment? Over here. Fred's going to handle that section of the room, so you want to be over here.
Monique Salvis, 3 Sandra Circle. Can you just kind of delineate the difference between hobby farming and commercial farming? Just for the sake, like, you know, if we have like Christmas trees on a 2-acre lot, is that considered commercial farming? So we can't, like, you couldn't make goat's milk products on a 2-acre lot.
Commercial farming is farming that is done for profit under state law and as well in our zoning bylaw. To do commercial farming, you either have to have over 5 acres of land, or you can have, by special permit of the Zoning Board of Appeals, between 2 and 5 acres that would be allowed. There's also a requirement for minimum income that you produce per acre on that lot. Hobby farming is all farming that is done for non-commercial purposes, whether that's backyard chicken farming or having horses, something done for personal enjoyment, self-sufficiency, educational purposes, so not for income.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none. Oh, there is one. Okay, make sure you raise your placard high so I can see it.
Thank you. Rich Preston, 165 Main Street. Can we hear from Town Council on this, Mr. Moderator?
For what? What, like specifically, what's your question?
This was suggested, the strikiness, as my understanding, was recommended by Town Council. So I'd be interested in their opinion.
I would say that would be, yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the previous speaker, Kate Connolly, Special Town Council for Land Use with Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane. Yes, I was asked to review this, and I did comment that because the Attorney General has to review bylaws, and there's a provision in the State Zoning Act, Chapter 48, Section 3, that says it's 5 acres can be considered as of right farming, not less than that. Therefore, to put in language that says 2 acres would probably not be allowed by the Attorney General. So I had recommended just to exclude that language that allowed for agriculture on only 2 acres. Currently, what the statute actually requires, 48 Section 3 provides that all agricultural uses must be allowed as of right on land zoned for agriculture, on land that is greater than 5 acres in size, and on land of 2 or more acres if, and it doesn't say by special permit like Douglas's zoning bylaw says, what it says is land 2 acres or more if the sale of products from the agricultural use generates $1,000 per acre or more of gross sales.
Other questions? Fred? Oh, actually, you have your own mic.
Got my own. Ross Smith, 35 U Street. Just a question on hobby farming. Is there an actual definition by the state on hobby farming? Is there something in writing that defines what a hobby farm actually is? Or is that going to be a broad spectrum?
There's nothing in state law that governs hobby farming, so there is no definition in state law for hobby farming. Commercial farming is defined by state law.
Thank you. Other questions on this amendment?
Way up there.
So you get your steps in on that one, is it? While she's running, I just want to thank a couple of people. Tim Bonin is our assistant moderator in the other room, so I want to thank him for stepping up to do that for us, as well as Douglas Cable and the school. As I said, this is a very, very challenging place to hold this many people, and they did a lot of work in order to get us here. So I just want to thank those people before we go any further. You have the floor.
Bill Ross, 41 Oak Street. Since there's no definition of hobby farming in state law, is there a definition provided in writing within this proposed bylaw or elsewhere?
I apologize. I'm going to have to ask you to eat the mic a little closer.
Since there's no definition of hobby farming in state law, I was wondering if there was a definition provided within this bylaw or elsewhere within town bylaws.
So our bylaw identifies it in multiple ways. It is hobby farming, non-commercial farming, recreational farming. That is language that exists in multiple other towns' right to farm bylaws that cover hobby farming. So that precedent in that language does exist in the state in other towns' right to farm bylaws that have been approved by the Attorney General.
Other questions? Right over here. As I said, please raise your placard. And just, I know we're kind of veering off what we're talking about a little bit here. This is specifically about this amendment and whether or not it should be defined as such. I know we're kind of moving around a little bit, and I'm giving a little bit of leeway there, but please keep in mind this is strictly about this amendment. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Robert Leonardi, 78 Pine Street. My question is to the prior speaker when she said that hobby and recreation farming was mentioned in other bylaws in other towns. In those other bylaws in the other towns, was there a definition provided, or was there just a mention without any sort of definition provided?
And this will be the last question that we get into on the definition of hobby farming. Go ahead.
In those other towns' right to farm bylaws that mention hobby, recreational, non-commercial farming, similar to ours, there is a definition of farming itself. And because at the state level, commercial farming is clearly defined, everything that is not commercial farming is by default considered hobby, recreational, non-commercial farming.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote on this amendment. All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. It's not too bad. Guys, come on. All those opposed, please signify by saying no.
No.
Okay, so the ayes were louder and also clearly had it. So the amendment does pass. So this will be section 4 going forward. Yep. So this is section 4 as amended. And we'll move on to section 5. Any person selling or transferring real property in Douglas shall include in the sale agreement and transfer documentation the following disclosure. It is the policy of the town of Douglas to encourage the maintenance and expansion of agriculture and farming. This property is located within a town that has adopted a right to farm bylaw. Agricultural activities occur in this town or in the town and may cause noise, odors, dust, and other effects associated with farming. Buying and residing in this town means acceptance of the potential impacts resulting from agricultural operations as consistent with the town's policy to support the right to farm bylaw. This notification shall also be provided by the town to applicants for residential building permits. And again, there is a proposed amendment that was submitted and vetted to me, or vetted by me for scope, to strike notification to buyers. Any person selling or transferring real property in Douglas shall include in the sale agreement and transfer documentation the following disclosure, and replace that with section 5 disclosure. The following notice shall be prominently posted on the town hall notice board and be made available for inspection and copying at the office of the town clerk. And I will accept that motion from the floor. Motion been moved and seconded. So with that, I'll ask, is there any dissent to passing this amendment? There is dissent, so is that correct?
Sorry.
That's not correct. Okay. Is there any dissent to passing this amendment?
Yes.
Okay. There is dissent to the amendment. So once again, welcome up Dallas and Lori for a proponent speech.
After speaking with the Board of Selectmen in late August, it came to our attention that including the state model language directly for notification to buyers could inadvertently increase closing costs for sellers due to filing fees associated with notification. To remedy this, we looked at how other towns did their notifications and believe that posting the right to farm notice at Town Hall will be better than requiring notification at the sale of a property, thus removing the financial requirement for citizens.
Questions on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the amendment? You can be seated. Would anyone like to speak on the amendment? Over here, go ahead.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, but I raised this concern to not impact property owners of the town.
A little more into the mic.
Sorry. I raised this concern at our meeting to not impact current property owners. The concern was about title transferring and disclosures and stuff like that, and that would create an unnecessary burden to a homeowner who wants to sell their property versus a neighboring community who wouldn't have this type of disclosure requirement. So that's what I put forth for the folks who were presenting this article to amend and make adjustments.
Anyone else like to speak on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, all right over here.
Jesse Bork, 68 Shore Road. Do we have any actual expert opinion on that as far as whether it would actually increase closing costs? And the reason why I ask that is because, for anybody that would be coming to live here, perhaps that would be a better way by not striking the amendment for them to make sure that they're aware of what they're coming into.
While we are past the Q&A part, if anyone would like to speak on possible financial impact. Okay, seeing none. Anyone else like to speak on this? Also seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No. The ayes clearly have it. So this is the section with the accepted amendment. And we'll move on to Section 6. Section 6, conflict resolution. In the event of disputes arising from agricultural operations, the parties are encouraged to seek resolution first through mediation or informal arbitration. Should valid issues continue, a formal complaint may be submitted to the Board of Health and the animal inspector for further investigation. Should there be a valid concern noted by the animal inspector, the Board of Health will take steps to help the property owner in remedying the issue and provide educational resources. Should valid issues continue without the property owner fixing or attempting to fix the problems, the Board of Health may decide on further action at a public hearing. If there are multiple non-viable complaints where documentation by the animal inspector has shown there to be no problem, the property owner will be given a written record of all complaints and reports to determine if they wish to open a civil case for harassment. Should an agricultural commission board be created in the town of Douglas, this board would take over the handling of agricultural related complaints from the Board of Health unless it is deemed the issue is a public health concern. Section 7, severability. If any part of this bylaw is held invalid, such... Did I hear a point of order? No? Okay. Section 7, severability. If any part of this bylaw is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the remainder. Section 8, effective date. This bylaw shall take effect upon approval at town meeting, approval by the Attorney General, and proper publication. So with that, I'll accept the motion to limit Q&A to 20 minutes and debate to an additional 30 minutes with a speaker limit of 2 minutes each. Motion been made. Is there a second? Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. The ayes clearly have it. So with that, I will move on to, that is all the amendments that were brought forth, correct? I have also been notified of an additional amendment that will come up later. Again, that will happen during debate. But in the meantime, I'll invite Lori and Dallas back up here to do their proponent speech on the Article 1 as amended.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. I'd like to take a few minutes to explain what this right to farm bylaw really means for Douglas. First, and most importantly, this bylaw does not give anyone new rights, and it does not take any rights away. For 279 years, Douglas has operated without complicated animal restrictions and has done so successfully. Nothing about how we currently own animals or manage our properties changes if this passes. What this bylaw does is bring clarity and structure to a system that right now has no clear process at all. Today, there are no zoning restrictions in town that dictate who can or cannot own animals. We already have residents with livestock in every zoning area: commercial, residential, agricultural, and everything in between. This bylaw does not override those laws. It simply puts into writing the way Douglas has always functioned when it comes to non-commercial farming and animal ownership. We've heard concerns from some residents that this bylaw would stop them from making complaints if there's an issue with a neighbor. That is absolutely not the case. Anyone can still file a complaint. The only thing this bylaw asks is that when possible, you try talking to your neighbor first. If that doesn't work and there are real issues, the town steps in just like it always has. The difference is that now we would have a clear, effective structure for handling those complaints. Instead of the confusion we have today, issues would be reviewed by the animal inspector, the Board of Health, and, if approved tonight, the Agricultural Commission. This allows each situation to be looked at individually, because no two properties and no two animals are exactly the same. Lot shapes, wetlands, hills, forested areas, even differences within the same species all matter. A one-size-fits-all regulation doesn't work in a town as diverse as ours, and it never has. It's also worth noting that this isn't a new idea. In 2007, Douglas was advised at the state level to adopt a right to farm bylaw. At the time, it wasn't done because we only had a handful of commercial farms, and it wasn't clear that the model law could be edited to support non-commercial farming, the type of farming most of our residents actually practice. That includes families raising animals as pets, for education, for 4-H, or simply for self-sustainability. This bylaw finally closes that gap. It ensures that all residents, not just commercial farms, are treated fairly and consistently. To put it simply, nothing changes about owning animals. Nothing changes about zoning. Nothing changes about setbacks, wetland protection laws, or conservation rules. The only thing this bylaw adds is a structured, transparent, common sense complaint process. And if voted in, the AgCom will be a commission that can support residents, mediate issues, and help Douglas continue the farming traditions it has upheld since its earliest days. This bylaw honors our history, supports our residents, and brings clarity where we currently have uncertainty. It protects what Douglas has always valued: responsible land use, a strong sense of community, and the freedom to enjoy our properties in the way generations before us already have. Thank you.
Questions?
commercial farming and fertilizer. And I'm just wondering what the town does, or is the town aware of what the environmental damage that could be from excessive fertilizer?
Could you repeat the last part of that sentence, please, a little louder?
Yep. Has the town done anything or aware of what would happen with to the environment from commercial farming fertilizer?
Thank you. Matt? Do we have a representative from the Board of Health here that might want to answer that, or no? Okay. Do you want to take a crack at it?
So I guess I have to put my fertilizer and pesticide hat on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're really going to have to eat that mic.
So I'm going to have to put on my fertilizer hat. Environmental regulation is the domain of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If there are significant issues regarding the fouling of any waters, those things are reported to the Department of Environmental Protection and investigated accordingly. The town's only jurisdiction is in public health issues that may occur on a property that spill over to other properties, which is more likely to be issues with rodents or manure management and those such things that involve people's rights in their property. Environmental regulation is a domain of the Commonwealth.
Tim, do you have anyone in the overflow room that wishes to ask a question? Okay. Other questions? Right over here in the front. Again, if you could use your placards, that's going to help me a ton.
Joanne Griffin, 151 Perry Street. With every bylaw or guideline or rule that's developed, there's usually something that goes behind that, and I'm sorry that I haven't kept up with what the issues may be. Would someone please give us some idea, without naming names or any of that kind of stuff, what has precipitated this? Would someone please give us some idea how many complaints, who gets them, have those increased? If so, a little bit about the content, please. Thank you.
No. So I appreciate the question, but when we're debating a bylaw like this, we're debating the merits of the bylaw. So if there's a question about the merits of the bylaw, that's fine. Like what precipitated the bylaw, or you know what led to this, is not really relevant, and I believe was answered in the proponent's speech as far as the why. So if you'd like to rephrase the question, I'll give you another chance at it.
Could you tell me how many complaints the town is getting and who gets them? That would be at least helpful. And is it that there's dust or manure or smells or whatever, the number of complaints, and who tends to get that? The Board of Health Board. Have those increased in town to elicit this issue?
I'm going to rephrase that for you a little bit, and it will be, the question is, what is the current process for how those complaints have been handled in the past? I don't know that that's relevant. So, current process? Okay. Matt?
There's definitely a fine for the chicken ringtones. Mr. Moderator, thank you. There departments when there's a complaint. Within the Town of Douglas zoning bylaw, there are environmental standards. So excess dust or runoff or other things can be brought to the attention of the zoning officer. There's also the Board of Health, which has jurisdiction that's been delegated to it by the Commonwealth under the nuisance statute. And the Board of Health has inspectors that will be sent to investigate a complaint for the public health concern. These things are not exactly the same, although they overlap. Public health inspector must have a valid public health concern that they're investigating. So again, the same examples I used prior are applicable. Rodents, any vectors, and things that would cause the spread of disease, or things that are in the public health mandate. We investigate all complaints, regardless of the source. We don't filter who's complaining or what they're complaining about. The only way to know what's going on is to send someone there to observe under any number of different conditions. So if some conditions are more likely to occur after rain or in the hot weather, then we focus our inspections on being there at the time that the types of problems arise. Either of those officials can issue a citation. In the end of the day, zoning officials' ability to enforce that portion of the zoning code is somewhat limited because there's a significant investigation. So if it's not obvious, it really falls to the Board of Health. If there is merit to a complaint, it is customary to issue a warning and to work with the individual property owner to address the conditions on their property so that they abate the nuisance, they stop the nuisance from happening. Really, we don't get into any kind of ticket writing or penalty phase or orders from the Board of Health until the warning has been ignored or we haven't been able to resolve the issue, and repeated attempts to arrive at a consensus are unsuccessful. Does that, Mr. Moderator, I hope that answers the question.
And to go just a half a step further, would you classify the current rate of complaints as significant, excessive, or insignificant?
In our experience, we have very, very few complaints. We have found probably 4 or 5 cases in the past decade or so where somebody's complained.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Over here in the back.
Craig Peters, 9 U Street. How many animals are they allowed on their property? And how many different kinds of animals do they have on their property?
Is your question currently or in this proposed bylaw? Oh, okay. Yeah, pass the mic back, please.
Currently, there are no restrictions on the number of animals on a property, with the exception of the Board of Health regulation on swine, which states that you need to have more than 5 acres to have over 4 pigs. That would not change with this right to farm bylaw.
Other questions? In the back over here. Yep, no, it's you.
Brian Campbell, 409 Northeast Main Street. Does this in any way affect the private owner from, or restraining them from being able to appropriately protect themselves from things like a good fence, arborvitaes, appropriate modifications to their property to mitigate their water, maybe any overflow, or obtaining animals for themselves, dogs, cats, maybe a goose to keep the neighbor's chickens away?
Can you hand the mic back?
No.
Other questions? In the way back. You already smoked once. Gets rotated around.
Lori Howe, 41 Oak Street. Would hobby farmers and non-commercial farmers, therefore at any lot size, be able to do educational and recreational activities, bringing community members to their home at random times, events and such, as noted in the bylaw?
Okay, I apologize. None of us understood the question. Could you rephrase it?
In the bylaw, it mentions educational and recreational activities as part of the farming definition, I believe. And so what I'm wondering is, if this bylaw passes, would people who have, any size lot and are farming be able to host, essentially, recreational and educational activities on their properties?
So in other words, could a school bring a bus to anyone's house?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
This bylaw wouldn't change the state of that as it exists currently. I would, say that you need to be able to appropriately park any vehicles required. Other than that, I can't think of any restrictions on that. I would defer to the town administrator if there's any rules on that I'm missing as it exists currently.
This is like the Socratic method, only worse. I have no idea I'm being called on. At the end of the day, you can't create a nuisance, right? So if you're blocking the flow of traffic or creating a public health nuisance, then there would be some ability for the town to interact with you. But Mr. Moderator, it is my understanding from the way the amendment was crafted to the nuisance section of the underlying proposed bylaw, that such activities would be deemed ordinary and customary in the course of owning that property and having that hobby or educational opportunity, and therefore would take it out of the realm of nuisance unless you could name a public health nexus.
Okay, Tim, any questions in your room? Other questions? Right over there first.
Kathy Landers, 39 Manchog Street. I guess to follow up, I want to be clear that currently I, as an individual citizen, can make a nuisance complaint against a neighbor for either toxic odors or dust, vermin, but under this, that is a result of some farming activity. But as a result of this bylaw, I would not be able to do so. Am I correct?
No, we're
and
not
if
doing
I'm
that.
not, please tell me how.
So the one thing to understand is that anyone can file a complaint for any reason. How that will be adjudicated by the Board of Health and the potential AdCom along with the animal inspector, that is, I think, more the question. So there are things, basically this right to farm bylaw does say that in a farming community, you can expect that there will be some dust, noise, and odor. However, that could not be excessive. There are generally accepted farming practices, which include proper manure management. So if proper manure management is not being conducted, that will be a finding by the Board of Health, by the animal inspector, by the AdCom, because that constitutes a public health issue. Similarly, dust, noise, and odor doesn't cover, say, a rat infestation. right? That is not generally accepted farming practice to allow that, and is a public health issue. So a complaint about a rat infestation would, if evidence was found by the animal inspector, then that would be addressed as a valid complaint. Does that clarify?
Other questions? We're going to go on the way back there.
Mary Ellen Kutsinskis, 171 Martin Road. I'm just wondering if any consideration was given to, instead of having the neighbor be the bad guy and complain about a neighbor, maybe instituting an application process stating the number of pets someone wants to have and a determination made prior to them acquiring those pets.
A restrictive regulation requiring registration of your animals by number and species, along with a requirement to apply for permits depending on what size land you have, was being discussed by the Board of Health. Officially, we know that discussion started in April of 2024 when it was brought up at a Board of Health meeting, although they did reference that they were working on a draft regulation that they'd been started about 2 years prior. But officially, we know that they were talking about it for the last roughly year and a half. That was not well received by the community. There was a lot of pushback on that proposal, and it was one of the things that prompted a group of people to form a grassroots movement in town to provide this as an alternative.
Other questions? Right in the very back over there.
Thank you. Mike Crowley, 69 Northwest Main Street. My question is, if there's only been 4 or 5 complaints in the last decade, and it seems like most of these amendments are almost scare tactics for the neighbors, what's the...
No, we're not doing that.
All right, well, answer.
Okay, moving on. Please put the mic back. Other questions? Right behind you, right there.
George Stiles, 23 Crescent Lane. My question is, this bylaws. George Stiles, 23 Crescent Lane. My question is as follows. For the parts of our town that have residential communities, developments without covenants, how does the new bylaw affect those neighborhoods? In other words, are they now considered farming communities?
Pass the mic back, please.
As it stands today, there is farming, both commercial and hobby, recreational, non-commercial, in all zoning areas of Douglas. And this does not change that. So I would say that as it stands already, every zoning area, every neighborhood in Douglas is already considered a farming community. The exception to that would be any neighborhoods that have an HOA agreement or anything attached to your deed as a private covenant that prohibits any agricultural activities. So you would want to check your deed to see if it contains that, because this right to farm will not supersede any private covenants such as HOAs.
Okay, and with that, our 20 minutes for Q&A has expired. I did see a few more hands, so I will accept a motion to extend Q&A by 5 minutes.
So
motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No. Are we really gonna have to do a standing count for whether or not we're gonna extend that? We actually are. I can't believe it. Okay. All those in favor, please stand. take breaks. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. Yeah, you can be seated. I'm not going to waste any more time. Be seated. So with that, we move on to debate. So I will remind everyone to keep it civil, stay on topic, anything off topic, anything that gets personal, anything that's not specifically about the bylaw itself will be out of order, and I don't need your help determining that. Would anyone like to speak on this article? Right in the middle? Izzy's got this one just a little closer.
Yes, my name is Pam Schwartz at 343 Southeast Main Street. I've been a resident of Douglas for well over 50 years, raised quarter horses, beef cattle, and done all the commercial farming aspects with a little tree and lumbering as well. I find this entire amendment a little premature, putting the cart before the horse. The suggested agricultural commission board probably should have been instituted before this amendment was considered and brought to a town vote. There are many things that a board with background of agricultural and animal husbandry, with people qualified to make decisions on this regard, would be in place to help informing this amendment. I think with the growth of the town occurring at the rate that it is, people coming into town saying, oh, make a cow, a horse, sheep, chickens, and ducks would be fun, be great for the kids. Yes, it would. But the guidelines are missing this amendment to help regulate and delineate what is acceptable for this kind of hobby recreational farming. And I think having a board in place first would certainly help promote the proper resolution of conflicts and whatnot, and help mediate the interests. I think we're generating more conflicts if we don't have further delineation in this amendment for having animals
That's
in
your 2
our
minutes.
yards. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on the issue? Over here. And before you do, I do need to clarify that this is a, we're not talking about the amendment at this point. This is actually the bylaw. So this is, because you mentioned the amendment numerous times. I just want to clarify that. Please.
My name is Jeff Dixon. I reside at 81 Perry Street, and I've been a resident here for 30 years. There's a lot of thoughts I've had about this. I'm a very strong believer in this law. And one of the things that I think about is where we're going as a society. My feeling is that society is stronger when we're diverse and knowing how we care and take care of ourselves into the future. Separating ourselves from the environment, separating ourselves from agriculture, separating ourselves from our own sustainability does nothing but hurt us into the future. I think that we need to think about this in societal terms. We need to think about what the future brings to us, respect the history of Douglas, and think about how that history can be brought forward to make our town better and stronger, and a leader in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, you got anyone? Yep. Anyone else? We're going to go right over here.
Howard Blue, 55 Cedar Street. I've been in town my whole life. I've been a farmer my whole life. The disrespect for our neighbors is not what we need to go forward in the future. We need to help each other, and we need to make sure that everybody is taken care of, as well as those who don't farm. Just because we farm and enjoy it doesn't mean everybody does. And they don't want to smell that overcooking on the barbecue at night. I don't think this is right at all. We should have an organization first and put something together properly.
Good. Anyone else? Over here.
Hi, Angela O'Loughlin, 244 South Street. I have been in generations of farmers, both sides of the family, as far back as I can go, but my grandfather raised us on Cottage Row and now on South Street. We have always been farmers, from big agricultural to where my grandparents were, to moving and immigrating here. He always had a little garden in his backyard, had some farm animals. He was more the hobby farmer from the big commercial farmer that he used to be. So I've seen both sides of the fence on commercial versus hobby, but his hobby farming actually fed my family. My mother was a single mother with 5 children. So it really worked to sustain our family. Now, as the single homeowner here in town, I have been collectively gathering eggs and gathering resources and helping this community in the town pantries and things like that. There's so much need for our own sustainability, especially in these times without going off on politics, that it's really important to maintain sort of this family farming tradition this community has always, or I was always, raised on. And so it is important to me. I've been around horses, chickens. I love them. They can come in my yard and take the ticks all day long. So honestly, there's so much benefit. Even people who raise rabbits or llamas, their manure create awesome
That's your 2 minutes.
soil. So thank you.
Other speakers? In the back over there, Fred?
Becky Gallagher, 24 Glen Street. Just to start with, so everyone knows, one of the goals of the open space and recreation plan in town is to get a right to farm bylaw. I'm not against it, but I do think there's some things that need clarification, so there's clear definitions, clear timelines, and not this vague ambiguity. As an example, the conflict resolution. There's pros on that. There's a structured escalation, educational support, harassment protection, and transparency. Cons. There's a complexity, multi-step process, may be cumbersome for minor disputes. Resource demands requires coordination among Board of Health, Animal Inspector, and potentially the AgCom. Legal ambiguity. Civil harassment claims may be difficult to pursue without clearer thresholds. Timing. No defined timelines for resolution steps. Suggestions. We need specific timeframes for each step, i.e. 10 days for the Board of Health response. Define valid concerns. Criteria to guide animal inspector evaluations. clarify thresholds for harassment claims, i.e. the number of unfounded complaints, include public education about the bylaw to reduce misunderstanding and goodwill. I think we need some more work on this bylaw so we have a very good, high standard bylaw that other towns will look to us to follow.
Okay, now, at this point, I'm going to call a little bit of a timeout. There was a proposed amendment that was given to me ahead of time. Does the proponent of that amendment still wish to move forward with that? Okay. Over here in the back, you do wish to make that amendment? Is it? It's on, you just have to speak loudly.
They don't hear it. All right, Mr. Moderator, there is a serious missing link in this bylaw.
I'm not looking for a proponent speech right now. I'm just looking for the amendment. Your proposed amendment. Okay, you don't wish to make the amendment?
Back and forth, Mike. The problem is, under Section 3, there is a statement that goes, this right includes without restriction. I believe we should change that, and the amendment that I'm suggesting is agricultural waste when properly stored or the source is physically located to prevent harm, both human harm and otherwise. That's the amendment. Do I speak now?
No. So the proposed amendment is, I'm guessing that you want to put it at the end here. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the amendment that's being proposed is agricultural waste when properly stored or the source is physically located to prevent harm, human harm, or otherwise. So the motion has been made. Does he have a second? Sorry, sir, you do not have a second. Nope, never mind. There is a second. So now, yes, you may go ahead and give your proponent's speech of why you believe we need this amendment.
All right, the problem is, in recent history, we had a farm that had pigs, and they were uphill from a neighbor and contaminated the neighbor's well, contaminated the water. They couldn't drink it, they couldn't cook with it, they couldn't wash with it. So they had to have a new well, thousands of dollars. And then they also had to flush the tubing because the water was inside the house as we do these days. So the rationale is that you want to place the animal's waste such that it doesn't contaminate the neighbors, meaning you put it higher and lower. Higher for the wells and lower for the animal.
Okay, so the amendment, as I said, is to add in agricultural waste when properly stored or the source is physically located to prevent harm, human harm, or otherwise. It did have a second. That was the proponent's speech. And we'll start with, is there any dissent to passing this amendment? Okay, there is dissent. So we've already given the proponent's speech. You have the floor for question and answer if you would like to come up to the podium. You'll do it from there? Okay. So as if you could bring the mic. Any questions for the proposer? Brett, I need you down here.
Madeline Colbert from 11 Crescent Lane. I'm confused in that this seems like it would be involving contamination of a neighbor's property. However, isn't that already covered by the Board of Health in that, like, maintaining, like, safe drinking water? whatnot.
Would you like to field that question, or would you like to yield to somebody else?
Moderator, the Board of Health did deal with the issue as best they could. There was no law which said that the altitude of the land or the topography of the land was important.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you to speak up again.
Both sides lawyered up and they stalled.
Okay, so we're not looking for historically what happened. We're looking for what the current process is and who that would fall upon. The question was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there an existing bylaw that covers this under the health department? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I apologize, your answer?
There is no bylaw, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. Other questions? Right over here, Fred.
Jean Sarley, 33 Cedar Street. I think there is relevance to find out what exactly prompted this bylaw.
No, hang on. We're strictly on this amendment right now, the proposed amendment.
This guy's amendment?
Yep.
Oh.
All right, we'll go to the person next to you.
Rachel Grant, 99 South Street. My question is, isn't there already mass general laws that govern the manure management in regards to runoff and other items that this person is concerned about?
Want a little more Socrates, Matt?
I tried. The answer is yes. It is a state statute. It is incumbent upon the Board of Health to enforce it. In the case involving the pigs, the Board of Health did enforce. The pigs were ordered off the property. The order might have gone further or not. Mr. Moderator, I won't rehash the history of that case. But the fact of the matter is the state statute gives the Board of Health ample opportunity to address a situation such as this.
Is there any dissent to moving on to a vote on this proposed amendment? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the proposed amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no.
No. Can we do it in a normal voice? Give me a headache?
No's clearly have. Okay, now we're going back to the previous bylaw as previously amended. We're back onto the timer with how much left? 14 minutes of debate left. Tim, anyone in your room want to debate? One more time? Okay, not at this time, so we'll go back to this room. Anyone like to speak? Right in the middle, over there. Busy. Fly. Fly, my winged monkey, fly.
Jessica Guyman, 2 A Street. My fellow citizens of Douglas, here at this moment we stand at a crossroads. What we decide by this vote will affect the future trajectory of the development or preservation of the town that we know and love. One choice takes us down a path where the rural and agricultural character of Douglas is revered and protected. The other choice leads down a path of suburbanization and commercialization. Yes, change is inevitable, but Right to Farm is not only about securing the freedom to farm and raise animals on your land. It is very much about the bigger picture of whether we want to preserve
the very character of the town of Douglas, the way of life that the generations who lived here before us established and thrived in through times of war, disease, and economic calamity. Today we are faced with the freedoms that have been available to us being limited or taken away by proposed regulations, fueled largely by neighbor complaints. Some folks who have moved here from more suburban towns and wish to change the very fabric of what makes our little town so special. Is not the town you moved to a farming community? Is the rural aspect of the town not why you wanted to live here in the first place? Is it not still the reason you want to continue to live here? My fellow citizens, I ask you humbly, do you or do you not want to preserve the very things you love about this little town of Douglas?
Thank you. Other speakers? Going in the way back, Izzy.
Lori Howe, 41 Oak Street. I feel it is a mistake to move forward with this bylaw. I agree that we should be able to farm in our town, and I think that what we're talking about here is largely about animals, not the gardens that we have in our backyards. I think that this started with one situation that I won't get into. I think that the problems with this bylaw include the need for refinement. We need to have some clear definitions, not just definitions that are circular, like hobby farming is hobby farming. And I think that we really need to think about things like, are people going to be processing their meat, their animals, killing their animals on their small properties because they're now farmers? And lastly, I just want to say that if I can read from the bylaw, open up. It says, it is hereby determined that whatever impact may be caused to others through the normal practice of agriculture is more than offset by the benefits of farming. Whatever impact. That is where they're coming from with this bylaw. And I think we need to take a step back, go back to the drawing board, talk as a community, and come up with something better. Thank you.
Go right over here. I got you. Okay.
Jean Sarley, Cedar Street. I agree with what this woman had just said, and if you look in that same section 3 above it, and Judge Judy will tell you that it's not.
I appreciate that you're demonstrative,
Okay.
but this doesn't
Whatever's in the four corners, this is the rule, this is the law, this is what we will live with going forward. And it states, even if such operations may cause incidental noise, odors, dust, or other impacts traditionally associated with farming. These activities may occur on holidays, weekends, weekdays, and by day or night as needed, which that follows up with what she had to say. The bottom line is, if I were looking to buy a house in this town and I was given something to read that says it's a right to farm community and I might have to deal with odors and dust, etc., I would not buy here.
Okay, Fred over here. Tim, how you doing? Nothing? Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. All right, Emily Brian, 31 Gilboa Street. So I want to say I agree. I completely, wholeheartedly agree that the odors, the dust, everything can be frustrating and annoying, but I absolutely love my chickens, and I wouldn't give them up for anything. I use them to feed my family. I grow my own vegetables and everything else. And I also use my dogs to keep my chickens in my yard. I make sure that I am respectful to my neighbors. And if you want to go back to speaking with your neighbors and doing that, you should. And I think that everyone else in town needs to speak to each other and speak with their neighbors as well, Mr. Moderator. I couldn't agree more. But I also think that using the bylaws that we have created and controlling pests and everything that's listed in here will keep neighbors back to speaking with each other, and then we can go back to working with the putting in citations and everything else we need to do to make sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to do to follow the laws. And that's what matters, is that we're following what's in here. And that will keep everyone on the same page.
Thank you. Right here. Yes.
Autumn, 55 Hemlock Street. I have lived in Douglas my whole life, and I'm sorry if I have chickens and I want to put my chickens as I please as long as I care for them. I should be able to do it. That's my freedom. So this bylaw has been said, is not changing anything. The AgCom that we're hoping to create is to help all of these issues. But I do not think that my neighbor can tell me what I can do with my chickens if I want to kill my chicken and eat it for my family. So I think that we're in America. America is supposed to be free. I get that people get upset, but talk with your neighbor. Let's be civil instead of create this big overflow of upset people, and just respect each other and let us have our animals.
No, you killed it.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Dawn Gauthier, South Street, Douglas. What I think, really, this is a wonderful, wonderful small town and community. But what I hear mostly from the audience here is about micromanaging what your neighbors are doing. It costs $0 to be a decent human being and walk to your neighbor and have a civil conversation before you need to start filing complaints. Get to know that person that moved in next to you. Find out why they chose Douglas. We chose Douglas because it was an agricultural area close to where my husband grew up. He grew up working on commercial farms in Washington State. You know, but to be welcomed by your neighbor, by them coming over and saying, your dogs are barking too loud, that's the problem what I'm hearing, is there's so many people that want to micromanage other people's business. You know, if I want to have 20 chickens...
I'd stop there. So just a reminder to keep it about the bylaw, and we're going to go back here.
Hi, my name is Gloria Peters. We live at 9 U Street here in Douglas. My family moved here back in 2013. We moved to a wonderful residential neighborhood. A lot of our neighbors do have chickens. In the area, we also had chickens when I was physically able to take care of them. We are animal lovers. We love all types of animals. Unfortunately, where we are living, we've had a situation where we were thrown into a farm literally landing in our backyard. The care of the animals is fantastic. The, Board of Health and, have been doing checks. Our concern with this is the fact that there is no regulation. So on, I have 2 acres. Say if I have a ½ acre of usable land for farm animals, and I just keep adding and adding and adding over the year and a half that I'm moving in, it's overwhelming for people. It affects neighbors in the fact that we can't use our backyard. The smell of it, especially in the hot weather, we can't use our backyard. A lot of us have allergies. We, like I said, it's been in our home, but within the past 2 years, it's been loss of use, basically. It affects our kids who have asthma. I have asthma as well. My husband has COPD. He goes out to mow the lawn, and he can't even finish. He's got to go back out 2-3 days because it's overwhelming. The dust, the odors, pest control. Do you want to know how many mice we just found this week alone? This past week alone in our garage? How many mice we
That's your
have in
time.
there? Pest control.
Mike Fitzpatrick, sitting up here.
Mike, you're going to need the mic.
Yeah, on the Board of Selectmen as well as on the zoning board. So as the town administrator had stated, there's a minimal amount of complaints over the last 10 years. Also, I checked in with the administrative assistant in the zoning office and researched back to 1972, and there's only been 2 special permits applied for farm. One was on Davis Street for horticulture, and that person discovered he was on the aquifer and withdrew his application. And there was a second one that was applied for in 2025, and that one was withdrawn. Why it was, I don't know. Bottom line is you just got to think about it, right? Everybody's sitting in this room and they're passionate for one way or the other. But what impact have you had from the town? You can ride around town, you can see chicken coops within very close proximities to the sidelines, the streets, and everything else. The town's not actively pushing to go out and try to police the town and attack people for having chickens or whatever pets they have. The only issues that come up is when somebody creates an issue for themselves, whether it's affecting a neighbor, as a nuisance, rodents. There's been a couple of those complaints, and it came in that they are actually invalid, that the complaint, that the investigation was done. There's been different comments online through this whole thing. It's been an emotional roller coaster for everybody. The Board of Health does not throw away complaints, as was stated on the Facebook pages. That's just untrue. Everything is taken seriously, is looked into. Is there hiccups in the system? Yes, but we're actively working on trying to address these issues and take a proactive approach and see how we can be fair to everybody, whether they're animal owners or just
And that's your time.
That's it.
Okay, and with that, our 30 minutes has been exhausted. Is there any motions to extend debate? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of Article 1, please stand and be counted. Be seated. All those opposed, please stand. You may be seated. Article 1 passes by a vote of 371 to 134. Okay, and with that, Article 2. Same process, rinse and repeat. If you're going to leave the room, please leave quietly while you're letting everyone else do the business of the town. Moving on to Article 2. To establish a municipal agricultural commission in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 8L. Agricultural Commission Establishment Bylaw. The town of Douglas hereby votes to establish an agricultural commission under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8L. The purpose of the Agricultural Commission shall be to represent the Douglas farming community, promote agricultural activities and enterprises, mediate conflicts involving agriculture, and support municipal decisions that sustain agricultural resources. The Commission shall serve as a local voice advocating for farmers, farm business, and farm interests, promote agricultural-based economic opportunities in Douglas, educate the public on farming practices and the value of local food production, be responsible for the drafting and implementation of any livestock, animal regulations, be responsible for complaints from citizens against commercial or hobby farms, educate the citizens on Douglas right to farm bylaw and good animal and agricultural practices, act in an advisory capacity to town boards, committees, and departments on issues involving agriculture. And with that, we move to our first amendment, which is to strike be responsible for the drafting and implementation of any livestock animal regulations, and replace that with work closely with the Board of Health to draft, revise, and implement any livestock animal regulations, as well as add oversee the design, purchase, and installation of roadsides, publishing Douglas as a right to farm town at the town border along major routes into town to include but not limited to Route 16 at the Webster and Uxbridge borders, as well as Lackey Dam Road and Gilboa Street, using donated or grant money. So I will accept that motion now. Motion's been moved and a second for the amendment. Motion made and seconded. We'll start with, is there any dissent to passing that amendment? There's dissent? Okay. Then we will have a proponent speech. If there's a town constable that can escort people in the hallway out so that we can clearly hear in the meeting, that would be appreciated.
So the amendment for working closely with the, oh, I'm sorry, can you hear me? No? Okay. The amendment for working closely with the Board of Health for drafting any future regulations is needed to align with State Law Chapter 111, Section 31. The state law gives the Board of Health the ability to make future regulations for things they believe are public health risks, but to prevent unnecessary impacts to those involved in agriculture. In towns with functional agricultural commissions, the Board of Health must give the AgCom a 45-day review period in which they can hold public hearings and get input from those that would be directly impacted by any such regulations. So before a regulation could go into effect, it would have to have that 45-day review period. This is to make sure that the regulations would be as logical and as non-cumbersome as possible. Adding this amendment makes sure that we are aligning fully with state law for this particular instance.
Questions on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the amendment? Good question. Okay, in the back, please. Anyone in your room?
Kathy Landers, 39 Manchok Street. Could I have the proponent, or ask Mr. Moderator, the proponent to describe why we need to have signs?
Why have signs? Okay. Is it for any other reason than they look cool? Okay, go ahead.
So the part about signs is right to farm towns throughout Massachusetts post signage as you enter the town so that you can be fully aware that this is a right to farm community. This goes in conjunction with what we had stated on removing the disclosure requirement for selling property. This is another means of making sure people who are looking to buy in town would be fully aware that they are buying in a right to farm town. So it plays off of that as well.
Other questions?
Jeff Mober, Northwest Maine. When it comes to the verbiage, work closely with the Board of Health, who has the final say, the Board of Health or the Agricultural Commission?
So agricultural commissions are not regulatory bodies by the state law. So ultimately that authority does fall to the Board of Health. But given everything that's happened, we would be very much hopeful that the Board of Health would take strongly into consideration whatever the Agricultural Commission and those in the agricultural community come forward with in regards to any future regulations that may be necessary down the road.
Other questions? Tim? Okay. Under the wire. The other way back.
Walter Parker, 19A Street. Can the commission actually stop more regulations? I mean, that's more what I'd be interested in, less.
In terms of putting a full stop to any future regulations, no. That falls under the Board of Health's jurisdiction, or if a zoning issue occurred at some point. Again, the Agricultural Commission is meant to work in conjunction with the other boards on things revolving around agriculture in town. But one of the ultimate uses of an Agricultural Commission is to make sure that things are transparent and people are aware of what's going on so that the public can have a full input with 45 days. And then the Board of Health would have to review any such regulations. And essentially, it keeps things logical, it keeps things necessary, and is non-cumbersome as possible.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, may be seated. Would anyone like to speak on the proposed amendment? Okay, also seeing none, All those in favor of the proposed amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No. The ayes clearly have it. Okay, so we move forward with the motion with the accepted amendment. The commission shall, and I just want to point this out, that in the warrant, the language select board, is that correct, was used. We will be substituting in this motion from select board to board of selectmen. And my town council, without me even really consulting, is going to tell me that that's okay because it's just the form and manner. Thank you. So as read, the commission shall consist of 5 members appointed by the Board of Selectmen for staggered 3-year terms. Initial terms shall be adjusted so that not more than 2 appointments expire in any year. The majority of the commission shall be actively engaged in farming or have a background in agriculture. The Board of Selectmen may appoint up to 2 associate non-voting members, especially youth or non-farming residents with an interest in agriculture. Members of the commission shall not be voting members of any other town, board, or commission. The Agricultural Commission may, with Board of Selectmen approval, apply for, accept, and expend grants or gifts to further its mission. And so with that, invite Dallas and Lori up to give their proponent speech after I accept another motion to limit Q&A to 20 minutes and debate to 30 minutes with speaker limit of 2 minutes each. Motion been made, seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. Ayes clearly have it.
The AgCom would have 3 main purposes. The first would to be an educational body to better help farmers. There's a lot of knowledge with agriculture that gets lost through the generations. We want to work with people to bring that back and to make sure younger generations understand it as well. Secondly, it's a proper means of investigating complaints that are not considered to be public health concerns, a way of helping people understand best management practices, good agricultural practices, helping them mitigate issues before they occur, and if there is something wrong, helping them figure out the best way to solve it for their individual situation. Third, it will act in conjunction with the Board of Health and any other boards in town that are working on regulation or anything that would affect the agricultural property owners in Douglas. I'm so sorry if you can't hear me. Yeah, we answered that question just a bit ago, but we do want to make sure the AgCom is working with the town. We want to make Douglas better. We want to help revive agriculture, and we want to bring things back like a farmer's market, 4-H clubs, FFA, and making sure that everybody who wants to learn agriculture has the ability, they have someone they can go to get clarification on local, state, maybe even federal laws, depending on what your question is.
Questions on Article 2?
Robert Leonardi, 78 Pine Street. I just would like to get some clarification on the final sentence here that says, members of the commission shall not be voting members of any other town board or commission. I know multiple people that are on several boards in this town, so I'm just curious why that was put in there and who are they trying to prevent to be on the Agricultural Commission?
Yeah, we're going to go with the first part of that.
Hey, try to sneak it in.
I was very So the point of that specifically is to reduce conflict of interest. If there was a discussion that needed a Board of Health member, a zoning member, a Board of Selectmen, they can be asked to come in. They don't need to sit on the board. We want to compose of people who are primarily working in agriculture, having extremely strong background in that, because that's really the educational portion here. And if we have a question that needs another board member or, again, town administrator or whoever it is to come in, they can be invited into a meeting to speak on a specific issue.
Other questions?
Hal Davis, 80 Orange Street. The only question that I have, is there an inherent conflict of interest? Obviously, the commission is to promote agriculture, which is fine in the town. Yet at the same time, it's supposed to mediate conflicts. So is that inherently a conflict, those two tasks, to act impartially, to mediate, and at the same time push the goals of the Agricultural Commission to expand and support agriculture in the town?
So if I understand your question correctly, you're asking if having those who are primarily composed or working in agriculture, would they favor one outcome over the other? Is that?
No.
Okay. So the point of having those who are highly knowledgeable in agriculture is to help others. There will be times when animal owners or other farmers are in the wrong. But if you don't have somebody who's extremely knowledgeable in that and knows good agricultural practices, then the problems aren't going to get solved any faster.
Additionally, there is state regulation governing agricultural commissions, and the requirement for the majority of the AgCom members to have an agricultural background or be active farmers is in the state law. That is not a choice that we have. There is also room on the board or on the commission for the minority to have representation that is not farming, and there's also a provision for non-voting members as well. So that voice can be included.
Other questions? Fred, right there. You missed my gavel point, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Wasn't it previously, Steve Colbert, 11 Crescent Lane. Wasn't it previously stated that the people that would be part of the commission would not be voting members of any regulatory body, and so a conflict of interest in that regard would be in effect reckless?
Can you just take the question again, please?
If they're not part of a regulatory body.
Are you talking about something that used to exist, or?
No, I'm asking about.
It could just be me mishearing you. That's why I'm just asking you to repeat the question.
The commissions are not voting members of the town board, correct?
Correct. Right over there.
Mark Buller, 64 Locust Street. Could you clarify the dispute resolution where you're saying, do you take away the Board of Health?
I need you to get the mic up.
Do you take away the Board of Health ability to look into investigations and complaints, or are you the starting point of that dispute resolution?
So the intent of having an AgCom involved in the resolution of disputes does a few different things. One is we're looking to alleviate some of the load off of the Board of Health so that they can focus on the complaints that have to do with public health and safety, whereas the Agricultural Commission would be more focused on helping with any complaints that had to do with general farming practice, and something might be resolved by
modifying how a farmer is handling their manure or modifying something about their structure. The AgCom would be providing more guidance on those sorts of complaints. There is nothing about this that would remove the authority from the Board of Health to be involved with anything that had to do with public health and safety, because that is their purview, and that's not something that we can take away from them. But by having the AgCom, it provides the knowledge base to work with the Board of Health, because to expect the Board of Health to have extensive farming knowledge is not necessarily realistic, and it's something that we've mostly been lacking. So we're looking to come alongside the Board of Health to address things with more of that knowledge.
Right here.
Shorter one. Dave Bergman, 30 Cobblestone. I have a question on the selection. Is it codified into state law how the selectmen would choose who's on the board? Because you're saying that you have to be involved in agriculture. That could hamper, like, how do the selectmen select the AgCom commissioners?
So I'm going to defer that question to the Board of Selectmen, but I do believe there is a process for appointing people to commissions.
The Board of Selectmen would always look at the application for any volunteer submitting before and look at their experience and education and what they are looking to do or bring before to add value to any board, commission, group that they're involved in. So there's a certain expertise.
Other questions? Tim, anyone in your room? Tim? No?
For those that made the statements and every group needs structure and guidelines, for those that made the statements, a couple of them here who have a long history with animal groups that have made those statements, several of us, will you be open to connecting with them to set some guidelines for this agricultural group, meeting with those people who spoke earlier?
Yes, that would be wonderful. The more knowledge that can be compounded and spread out to people, the better. We're not going to gatekeep knowledge at all.
Mr. Moderator, is it time to, or too early or too late to make an amendment?
Too early.
Thank you.
As far as the complaints, what is the...
Go ahead, name
What's that?
Name and address.
Oh, Mike Fitzpatrick, I have
That's not good.
Southwest Main Street. So what is the intended process for complaints? Would it go to the Ag Commission first? Would it go to the Board of Health first?
So ultimately, that depends on the nature of the complaint. If it's a public health concern, so a disease vector, runoff, something of that nature, that would go straight to the Board of Health. If it's, how do I help my rooster not crow so much, or how can I better set up fencing so my animals don't get out, that's more of an AgCom discussion.
Tell me more about the not crowing rooster. Go ahead.
It actually didn't answer my question. So I understand what the process would be once the complaint came in. You would make a determination as to whether it was a health concern or an ag concern. Where does it go to first? Does it go to the Board of Health and then get distributed to you after they make that determination? What is your intention?
As the AgCom is not a regulatory body, going through the Board of Health would be the most logical. Have them determine whether or not that's a public health concern, and if they pass on that, going to the AgCom.
That's all I was looking for, is to see what your intention is.
Thank you, crosstalk. Other questions?
Gibbs, Wallen Lake Road. For clarification, the Agricultural Commission would be volunteers. Thank you.
And just to clarify, that was answered in the affirmative. Other questions? I know. But he's already spoken once, so I'm looking to see if anyone else. Okay, Hal, go ahead.
Yes, Hal Davis, 80 Orange Street. Would an aggrieved party be able to go to the Board of Health and skip the commission, or must you involve the commission in settling any issues with the property owners?
So again, that really determines on the nature of the complaint. Is it a public health concern that needs to be investigated by the Board of Health, or is it more of a issue with fencing or farm, setup or noise or something of that nature?
Just wondering if there's.
You have a follow-up, Hal? No. Other questions? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to debate. You may be seated. Big breath, everyone. Just... Okay. Would anyone like to speak on this article? Okay. Seeing none, anyone too? No? Okay, all those in favor of Article 2, please stand and show your placard. I apologize. As a matter of order, I did miss something. Please be seated. We're not there. There was an amendment that was brought up to me ahead of time, and unfortunately, my peripheral vision is not the best. And he actually did try earlier, and I told him to wait until later. So I apologize, but there is a proposed amendment. Please go ahead and make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ross Smith, 35 U Street. I'd like to make a motion to strike from this paragraph the very last sentence. Members of the commission shall not be voting members of any other town board or commission.
Ross, can you tell me where that's located so I can...
It's the very last sentence of...
okay, this one right here?
Right here. Okay. No. Not your last line, but your last sentence of your middle section.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion's been made. Did everyone hear that okay? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. So is there a dissent to accepting that amendment? There is dissent. Okay, so with that, Ross, you have the floor.
Well, being a sitting member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the Master Plan Committee, 250th Committee, and also a quick little Main Street conceptual look over. The volunteers for different committees in town are pretty scarce, and I think limiting them to not bring in sitting members of other boards who have knowledge of the town, laws. I just think it's a little discriminatory to not include them.
Questions for Ross?
Autumn, 55 Hemlock Street. I think it's because you guys don't technically have animal knowledge that...
Is this a question?
Or no, I guess.
Okay. Questions?
My bad.
Right over here.
question. What's to
Get the mic up.
What's to keep the Board of Selectmen from being to use their power in voting or going against something the Ag Committee thinks is best because it goes against their personal issues?
We have to vow by.
Hang on.
I mean, it's promoting the good old boys club.
Okay, no. And
See, you're there, and then it's.
I'm 60, damn it.
Ross, your answer.
It's called Code of Ethics. You take an oath when you sit. You'll find out if you want to get on my board. It's not a very easy position to sit here. I own chickens. I love animals. Okay? So we don't
no
have
crosstalk, please.
Go ahead.
No, 60 or 50. When they're talking, they talk. When you talk, you talk. That's it. That's.
I think I answered that with the Code of Ethics.
Okay, thank you. Other questions right here?
I am people in the 15th.
I hate to do it. No, it's actually on.
Hello.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm Kate Rowland, the 15 Depot Street, and I was just curious, and I don't know who would know the answer to this, but are there any other boards or commissions that don't allow other voting members of other commissions to be a part of those boards or commissions?
Not that I know of.
So this would be the only one.
No, question, and then that's it. Okay. Okay. So the answer is not that we know of. Matt? I was just playing with you.
There's something special about being on the Board of Assessors, but I'm not sure I can put my finger exactly on what that is. And I'm only 57, so I'll keep the rest of my thoughts to myself.
All right, so possibly the Board of Assessors, but we're not entirely sure. Up in the wave, no, we're good. Okay. Other questions? Right here.
Madeline Colbert, 11 Crescent Lane. Would there potentially be any room for conflict of interest were the town board able to be on the Commission of Agriculture as well?
Again, that would be under your
pass the mic back, please. Thank you. Ross, go ahead. Or Les. If you want to defer to him.
You want to answer it, Les? Les has the answer.
Les Stevens, Franklin Street. Any board of selectmen or any board member, if there's anything filed, complaint against them, or even in the surrounding abutting properties within a certain distance, would have to recuse themselves. So this is one of the first thresholds of ethics standards. The second one is if there's any financial gain, and this has to do with whether their property or even their in-laws or parents or anything like that owning property and stuff like that is related to complaints. It creates a whole lot of buffer circle that they have to recuse themselves in any involvement. So any notion of concerns regarding ethics in any way, they would have to recuse themselves. He or she would have to recuse themselves in any way.
Do you have to attend ethics training?
When it comes to training, thank you, Mr. Moderator, for bringing up training. Town employees and board members have to go through, I think we're up to 80 courses, roughly, I don't know, it's going to be like 60 hours of training, certifications, along with files and disclosures, and a lot of additional paperwork in a yearly time frame.
I would love to then ask a follow-up about open town meeting laws and whether or not they apply to our state legislature, but I'm going to leave that for another day. So, anyway, slight tangent. Sorry, thanks for the ride. Any other questions? In the back?
Yes, we're supportive.
Yeah, don't be afraid to leave. It's especially when you're like in the corner over there. It's dimly lit.
And I'm awake, I swear. So Julia Lagerholm, 115 North Street. I want to ask how you avoid the inherent risk of appointing yourselves to the commission.
So
Or conflict, the inherent conflict of appointing yourselves to the commission.
So if you can hand the mic back, I feel like that's been asked and answered a few times now. So very, very, very briefly, if you want to answer that. But like I said, that I think we've covered that one already.
So you can't appoint, well, you can vote yourself in if you want to, but I'm not just talking Board of Selectmen, I'm talking Zoning Board, Conservation Commission, any other sitting member on any of these other commissions can have a very valuable input to this commission also. And I think by eliminating them from having that chance to participate in that is just not right.
I'll actually ask one myself. Would a member of Douglas Oktoberfest be able to be on this committee? I'm not on Douglas Oktoberfest anymore. It just it's one baby. Okay, so the answer is no. Okay, unless your amendment passes, correct? Or your amendment. If your amendment passes, then no, not you. Get out of the way, Les. So
my concern is the voting member of any other town commission. That's what my concern lays.
Okay. And what I'm saying is if your amendment passed, would someone from Oktoberfest, I'm just using that as an example, be able to be on?
If they bring value to the commission on an appointment, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Over here.
Rachel Grant, South Street. My question is, would that voting member also have to go through the same application process as any other commission for this ag law? So you have to prove that you're agriculturally competent, etc.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Back over there, we're going to start wrapping it. Yep, go ahead, Fred, right there. We're going to start wrapping up the Q&A.
Kate Schubert, 76 Maple Street. I was just wondering, is there maybe a compromise in this? Could you do maybe 6 months, a year without there being a board selectman on the commission, and then reevaluate and see if there is a...
I'll just cut you off there because the answer is no. And I'll be happy to explain that to you later. I just for the answer, or just for brevity's sake. Other questions? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the... What's up? Okay, last question.
Does this in any way affect...
Name and address, please.
Brian Campbell, 409 Northeast Main Street. Does this in any way affect my ability or any of our ability to, any capacity we can do to go to other meetings that are involved with the town as far as being able to be a part of obtaining who's going to be our board of selectmen or the health department or any of the other members that may or may not be on this potential commission that we're voting on?
All right, so just because most people didn't hear that, I believe the question is, would his proposed amendment preclude anyone from being able to attend other meetings, or is it to be on other boards? If you could clarify.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to impede me from my right to be a part of this town in any other way that may affect this town in any other way.
I'm not sure I understand the question, to be honest with you, Keith.
He wants to know if your proposed amendment would preclude him from being member of any of the other boards or commissions or participating in any meetings.
I think the only thing that would hold would be open meeting law.
More mic.
I think the only thing that would get in the way of that would be open meeting law or
conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest, which would eliminate the possibility.
Okay. Other questions? No, actually, I said that was the last question. All right, we're moving on to debate. Would anyone like to speak on this amendment? And we'll start right here.
Lauren Colbert, 11 Crescent Lane. I just wanted to address Mr. Moderator. There was a question raised about the availability of volunteers, and I understand that at times it's difficult to find people to volunteer on commissions in town. That it was important for the members of this legislative body to understand that we have been contacted by over 30 people who are well qualified to serve on the AgCom who are interested in volunteering. So at this time, we do not anticipate, we figure that the toughest job we're going to have is picking just 5. As you can see, there's a large room of people that feel strongly and are actively involved in farming in town.
Anyone else like to speak?
Autumn, Hemlock Street. I think that the reason why we're here is because I don't want to say the knowledge, because I don't want to make like anybody feel like they don't have any knowledge, but we're here because there are complaints being brought to you guys, brought already to the boards, and we're having difficulty solving them. And so bringing people in this room that have a ton of background in it, we need fresh eyes instead of people that have already been looking at all these issues and they're not getting solved as well as they're being told.
I don't disagree with that.
No, this is debate. So, yeah, we're past Q&A. Anyone else like to speak on this? To the back, please. Yep.
Becky Gallagher, Glen Street. This is the exact wording of the state law. A commission shall consist of not less than 3 nor more than 7 members who shall be residents of the municipality. A majority of members shall be farmers or employed in an agricultural-related field. If farmers or persons employed in agriculture are not available to serve on the commission, then the commission shall include a majority of members with knowledge and experience in agricultural practices or knowledge of related agricultural businesses. Just to let you guys know.
Anyone else like to speak on the proposed amendment?
Rebecca LaValle, Northwest Maine. We're talking about right now, Ross is talking about a bylaw that's going to be on the books forever. And while we have enough volunteers now, that's not saying we're going to have enough volunteers in the future. We always need to think about the future when we're making these type of amendments.
Anyone else like to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Ross, can you read the amendment, the proposed amendment again, please?
Yeah, the proposed amendment basically is to strike the last sentence of that middle section. Members of the commission shall not be voting members of any other town board or commission.
Okay. Any questions on what we're voting on right now? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No. Ooh. I like it. You don't, but I do. All right. All those in favor, please stand. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. You may be seated. The proposed amendment fails by a vote of 146 to 166. Okay, so we are moving back to the original motion on Article 2. We were at a vote at this point, so we will move to a vote on Article 2. Does everybody understand what we're voting on right now? Okay. I guess I should have said, does anyone not understand? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Article 2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No. The ayes clearly have it. All right, at this time, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. I understand some people probably need to let their dog out. So we're going to recess for 5 minutes. Again, I am going to ask that everyone who is leaving, please do so quietly and orderly so that we can continue on with the meeting. And at the conclusion of the 5 minutes, I will invite anyone left in the overflow room to join us in here. again, thank you for your service for running the second room. At this point, we are shutting down the overflow room and moving the meeting back to the main room here only. So with that, I just want to let everyone know my overarching goal in running town meeting is to provide efficiency where efficiency is warranted and discussion where discussion is needed. There are some articles that I'm going to try to move quickly through coming up here. I highly encourage you that if you want to ask questions or debate, that you say so. So when I say, is there any dissent to passing an article unanimously, you say yes, and we will go into that article. So just like I said, what I'm trying to do is move efficiently, but I do not want anyone to feel like we are rushing. Is that clear? Okay. And with that, I will take a motion to move Article 3 to raise and appropriate the sum of $105,157 to fund the following amendment to Article 2 of the annual town meeting as of Monday, May 5th, 2025. There we go. All those as printed in the warrant. So moved. Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Is there any dissent to passing Article 3? Yes. Okay, there is dissent. And with that, Article 3, Ross. Yep. Do you want to give a brief synopsis of Article 3, please?
I'll do my best. This is pretty much business as usual. Close any funding from the previous town meeting that's been approved. Sometimes you got to move a few dollars around here and there to just round up and close out all the open tickets.
Questions on Article 3? Right over here.
Mark Munjo, 20 Depot Street. I understand that there's small funds that need to be moved around, but I didn't understand the $50,000 expenses for tree warden. I wanted a better understanding of that.
Thank you. Socrates?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you for the question. We typically wait until the fall.
Excuse me, Matt. Again, I need to ask a constable to move people out of the hallway, please. Go ahead, Matt.
The town typically waits until the fall to fund tree warden expenses. It's a substantial amount of money, and we make sure that we have the operating funds available to conduct the activity. So usually in the spring we put in about $10,000 for the tree warden, and then if we have resources in the fall, another $50,000. And we've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years.
Question and answer, Mike?
No.
Okay, follow up. Busy? Mike?
Well, what goes...
You need the mic, Mark.
Sorry. What goes to those expenses?
So we have a contract for daily services from a tree service, and I think we're at, it's $2,500 or a little bit less than $2,500 a day. They remove dead trees or other trees that are a threat in the public rights of way, specifically where they're near electrical wires.
Other questions? Over here.
Kelly Tower, 45 Manpack Street.
Randy's right, stand.
I'm just curious about why we're increasing the library expenses of $5,000 and decreasing the library wages of $5,000.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Moderator, thank you for the question. We are not allowed to move money from the compensation accounts into expenses and vice versa without the authorization of the town meeting. So I think he's got a slight overage with his wage account, but he has ample funds in his expense account to cover them.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the article? Okay, also seeing none, is there any dissent to passing this article unanimously? Seeing none, Article 3 passes unanimously. Okay, Article 4, the motion to move Article 4 as printed in the warrant. We okay with that one, Matt?
So I want to channel the town accountant and please request that the motion include the sources of funding.
Okay. I feel like Jean doesn't get to do that to me if she's not here.
She will only be angry with me if you don't.
I'll accept a motion to transfer from free cash the sum of $464,801.31 and transfer from the following previously approved projects in the sum of $380,904.69 and transfer from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriations the sum of $59,694 for a total amount of $905,400.
So moved.
Motion made. Is there a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing Article 4 unanimously? There is dissent. Okay. And so with that, Mike, would you like to address this article, please? Yep.
Okay, so Keith just read off the amounts.
Yeah.
Okay. Now can you? Yeah. So Keith just read off the amounts. So on the capital improvement budget, we're looking for $50,000 for the highway department hot box and associated costs. The ductless replacement for the historical record, we had appropriated money for that before. We fell short by about $2,000 on the quotes that came in. So we're going to increase that to $4,000 in case the new quotes that come in aren't sufficient enough to make sure that the project actually gets completed. The fire department repairs and improvements was $763,900. We had looking at the dates here, trying to make the details of it. So 11/18/24, 2024 special town meeting included building systems repairs and upgrades, including electrical, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, and any design of general contracting services required to complete those repairs and upgrades and all associated costs. Ambulance and equipment purchases, we had previous meeting, we had approved the purchase of a new ambulance. But the enterprise fund didn't have enough in there to cover the associated equipment that was needed with that, the stretcher and some other equipment that they need. So we're looking for $60,000 for that. Highway trailer purchase currently being leased by the highway department for $27,500 for a total of $905,400. What we're going to do is take the turnback monies from a few of the projects. The post office parking lot paving was $14,550.89. Municipal center backup generator was $61,270.85. The municipal roof project was $32,986.36. Post office HVAC was $12,825. Municipal center HVAC unit, $36,110. Police cruisers was $11,607.77. The fire department DMC Lucas CPR device of $306. Highway department lawnmowers, $2,506. And we're also taking, at a previous town meeting, we had the fire department electrical upgrades, 11,821 was $208,741.82. That's a total of $380,904.69. Transfer from the ambulance receipts of $59,694. Transfer from free cash is $464,801.31. The total from all sources is $905,400.
Questions on this article? Back.
Mark, representative 171 Martin Road. I was under the impression that we already had a hot box trailer for the highway department. We're buying another hot box, or what's going on?
Yes, we do currently have a hot box. What the highway superintendent's looking to do is be able to set up two crews and also offset the replacement of the hot boxes. The current hot box is about 7 years old. The life expectancy is 10 to 15 years on that particular thing if it's maintained properly, and they do the best they can to maintain it. But this is going to enable us to do hot patches versus having one crew doing cold patches, which don't last. The first rainstorm, they're out of the ground. The hot patch seems to be the most effective way to repair those. And that's what the highway superintendent is looking to do.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the article? Okay, seeing none, is there any dissent to passing Article 4 unanimously? Seeing none, Article 4 passes unanimously. Article 5, accept a motion to transfer the sum of $144,000 from water sewer retained earnings to fund the following amendments to Article 6 of the annual town meeting of Monday, May 5th, 2025, as just bear with me 1 second. Gene, do we need to read these? Matt? Or can we do as printed in the warrant, because we have the
It's as printed, should be sufficient.
I'm sorry?
As printed.
Okay, so as printed in the warrant. Motion made, is there a second? Second. Motion made and seconded, is there any dissent to passing Article 5 unanimously? Okay, seeing none, Article 5 passes unanimously. Article 6, accept a motion to transfer the sum of $8,000 from the waterways receipts reserved for appropriation account for the purpose of funding equipment and maintenance repairs pertaining to the dive rescue boats and dive rescue water rescue activities. Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing Article 6? Seeing none, Article 6 passes unanimously. Article 7, accept a motion to amend Section 2.2 overlay districts, Section 2.3 map, Section 3.1.3, and Appendix A, table of use regulations in Section 4.1.3, and Appendix B, table of dimensions regulations of the zoning bylaws by creating the warehouse overlay district over parcel 115-8, parcel 115-5, parcel 115-3, parcel 115-2, parcel 115-1, parcel 114-2, parcel 114-1, parcel 113-2, and a portion of parcel 113-1. Taken together, the above parcels are commonly referred to as pine, sand, and stone. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing this article?
Yes.
There is dissent, and so with that,
Mr. Moderator,
yes.
looking for my economic development director to not be sitting.
I'm sorry, Matty.
We're looking to withdraw this, pass over this article.
We're looking to pass over this article. Okay. So I will accept a motion to pass over Article 7. All right. The motion's been made to pass over Article 7. Is there a second? Made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing over this article? Seeing none, we'll pass over Article 7. You want to know why we're passing over Article 7? It's already done, but I will give Matt 10 seconds to explain why we're passing over this right now.
The party looking to develop the property no longer needs this form of relief.
Okay. Moving on to Article 8. I'll accept a motion to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept a deed in lieu of foreclosure under MGL Chapter 60, Section 77C for the parcel of land and buildings located at 67 Gilboa Street, and more specifically identified as Assessor's Map 138, Parcel 45, and to approve the satisfaction of any and all outstanding taxes, fees, and charges owed to the town related to said property.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing Article 8 unanimously? There is dissent. And on with that, Cheryl, would you mind addressing the body, please?
So this parcel...
Hang on. You need a mic. Hang on. Good try.
This parcel directly abuts the water department. It's been in tax sales since 2007. I apologize, 2009. But for back taxes as far back as 2007.
Any questions on this article? Right over here first. Izzy. I'm sorry? Oh, Cheryl, sorry. Can you?
Cheryl Badia, Treasurer Collector.
Thank you. Izzy, start heading over that way. Go ahead.
Hi there, Rob Jaika, 180 Walnut Lake Road. My question would be is how much are the tax arrears and how much is the property worth?
Thank you. Please. Oh, you don't have a mic anymore. That's bad planning on my part. All right. Thank you.
So the 2025 assessed value is $157,000, and the back taxes as of today are $107,409.
Thank you. Your question?
Luann Witt, 38 Martin Road. I don't understand why we want it. It's half a pond and a big swamp. What are we going to do?
Okay. Why do we want this? Matt? You want it?
I was hoping the treasurer would say to write off this tax receivable, which does hit our free cash every year. For a point of reference, the town owns lot 20. So behind me on the map, if you can make out the 20, that is the wastewater treatment plant next to the Mumford River. The town also owns lot 44, which is the remainder of Gilboa Pond, till that goes up to the bridge to the new warehouse. So taking this lot would unify the town's control over the water, the pond. Bear in mind the town does own the dam that holds that water back. So those are the two reasons. There is virtually no hope of collecting these funds from this defunct trust. It doesn't have the funds to pay its tax bill.
And I understand there was a promise about making a water scheme. Right over here.
So what does the town plan to do?
Name and address.
Dawn Gauthier, South Street. What does the what does the town plan on doing to this property? How is it going to be an asset to Douglas?
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, thank you for the question. I don't want to suggest that we have grandiose plans for a swamp, except to leave it open. And the town also owns that little bump out that you see on Gilboa Street, which is a parking lot. Sometimes a popular food truck is parked there. There is a hope to develop a small park there so that the people will have access to that small body of water. And we would cut off access to the street so that people could be behind some protection and enjoy that. It's actually kind of a nice little natural environment.
Thank you. Other questions?
Pardon my ignorance. I'm Angela, South Street, Angela Laughlin. Is this property, if I'm understanding correctly, I just want to make sure I do, property lot 45 is what's the question of, I'm assuming, currently owned by a private person, like a resident in town, who didn't pay their taxes, and this is a way of rectifying that and benefiting the town. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just because it wasn't on mic, the answer was in the affirmative. Other questions? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on this article? Also seeing none, is there any dissent to passing Article 8 unanimously? Okay, seeing none, Article 8 passes unanimously. Article 9, I'll accept a motion to move Article 9, transfer the sum of $4,540 from the sale of lots receipts reserved appropriation account for the purpose of purchasing, identifying signage, and accompanying mounting posts for Douglas Center Cemetery, Pine Grove Cemetery on Cemetery Street, and South Douglas Cemetery on South Street. Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing Article 9 unanimously? Okay, seeing none, Article 9 passes unanimously. Article 10, I'll accept the motion to transfer the sum of $50,000 from free cash for the demolition of structure located at 19 Main Street, parcel 198-4, including environmental remediation, demolition, and disposal costs. Motion been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing this article? Yes. Okay, there is dissent. And with that, Matt, would you like to speak on this article, please?
I would like to defer to a member of the Board of Selectmen that has been so enthusiastic about removing this building.
So this name, Les Stevens, Franklin Street. This property was purchased by the town of Douglas with the intent at the time of purchase to demolish the building. The building is located close to the town common, so the removal of the building would be beneficial for the town to utilize that space for parking or any other town common needs or other needs, such as a garden or space for the soccer club or anything that we may do with the old VFW hall. So we're just executing and fulfilling the promise that was passed at the acquisition of the building.
Other questions? Ready?
Dawn, South Street. How long ago was the building acquired?
Approximately 12 plus years ago.
Can you pass the...
2012. Yeah.
You can do a follow-up, go ahead.
So can you tell us why there's been such a delay making this happen or decision?
I could just say that there was other needs at the time and other factors, you know, in that. So it just kind of got lost in the shuffle, and now we're here to try finally, you know, it's got two visible skylights for the squirrels to access it, and a couple other natural skylights. So I think it's just time to get rid of the eyesore that's on Main Street to kind of beautify our community.
There's still some valuable copper piping in there, though, right?
I don't believe so. That was gone about 5 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry. And there's no water access for Keith. Okay, so
other questions? Ready? How old are you, Fred?
Kristen.
Hang on one second. Fred, how old are you, Fred? 56. You got beat by a 57-year-old. Shame. Shame. Go ahead.
So at least 207 Main Street, has the town already performed the required asbestos?
Hold on. Please repeat. If you can bring the mic closer, that would be appreciated.
Sorry, has the town already conducted an asbestos survey on this property?
yes, the town confirmed a survey. One of the reasons why the town purchased it was to ensure the right of access to the property that's in the back that the town owns, leases out to the soccer field, as well as part of the highway department cleanup pit. So this was to ensure there was a right of way to make sure that that was going to be accessible. So the survey was done at that time.
Other questions? You have a follow-up? Okay, briefly.
Was the survey, did it contain any asbestos materials?
Oh, yes, on the exterior of the building was asbestos, and it's been noted. So that was part of the demolition costs.
Other questions? In the way back. You know what's even better about that is you get trapped in the mouse maze.
Mary Ellen Dobzinskis, 171 Martin Road. I just want to clarify, you're saying that the assessment was done in 2012 to assess the cost to take this building down, and there isn't anything more recent?
No, there was one done recently. That's how we determined the value for the demolition of it. There was one done, I believe, initially when they purchased the building, but we had to re-up that for the cost to be concurrent.
Other questions?
Brian Campbell, 409 Northeast Main Street. Just for some clarity, so the property that's adjoined to it that you potentially were thinking about an easement access point to that property, would that be something you're still be proposing in the future to use it as? And what would you be intending on wanting to access the other property behind it?
So what you're referring to, just for the audience members, regarding the access point when the town purchased the brown house there, 19 Main Street. So the town owns the building as well as the abutting building as well as the backland. So it gives us access to about 34 acres of land. And it's an ideal spot right now. We're just trying to demolish the house, clean up the area, and get rid of the eyesore on Main Street at the end of the day. And the liability to the town.
Is he in the back?
Lisa Mozinski, 60 Oak Street. I appreciate the beautification efforts, but I ask how you justify this expense in light of other capital expenses and road repairs and other needs in town.
It's been a long-coming safety and liability issue regarding this building. We did, in the past 12 months, 16 months, we did an assessment looking at some of the town-owned land that's vacant and abandoned, looking at the use of those buildings, whether they were going to be revitalized or updated or needed to be demolished. And so that's what kind of brought this forward. We've also been very successful in getting some of the grants that are redone in Gilboa Street and the work that we've also done on Depot Street regarding paving. So listed and taken any additional money away from anything. It was just, time to finally get rid of the eyesore and move forward. And kind of, since we've been utilizing the town common and want to continue to do that and give the citizens, better looking town view versus an eyesore on Main Street that they own.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the article? Okay, seeing none, is there any dissent to passing this article unanimously? There is dissent. All those in favor of passing Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. No. Okay, the ayes clearly have it. Okay, and I will accept a motion to transfer the sum of $50,000 from free cash for the demolition of structures located at 103 Shore Road, parcel 318, including environmental remediation, demolition, and disposal costs in accordance with the order of the land court. And no, I'm not going to ask if there's any dissent. We'll move right to Matt.
So moved.
Oh yeah, thanks for that. And seconded? Second. Yep. Awesome. More Mountain Dew time. Thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
So this property has been subject to litigation between neighbors. The town was joined as a third party and somewhat passive party for the first decade of the litigation. Basically, one of the neighbors took the position that the town should enforce state law with respect to the minimum size of a separate lot and also enforce its own zoning code. A building permit was issued for the construction of this house that was invalid at the time that it was issued. The building commissioner did not have the legal authority to issue a building permit, and so found the court. However, there have been many, many appeals of the different decisions of the courts. All those appeals have now been exhausted, and the town has been granted authority to enter into this property if the landowner will not, to remove the offending structure.
Questions on this article? Go ahead.
Why has it been so long? My name is Dawn, and why has it been so many years that this has been an ongoing issue? The town did pass a permit, in 2008, and it's just, this seems like it's one of those neighbors complaining to neighbors situation that has brought us here and has put the expense on the taxpayer. So why has it been since 2008 that this has been going on?
Just stop. Just stop talking.
You were doing good.
Go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Moderator, I'm fine with answering multiple questions. Just to make sure that we're all on the same factual basis, there was no valid building permit. It was issued, but the court invalidated it because the building commissioner did not have the authority to issue it. The lot was too small, did not have sufficient frontage to be a buildable lot. But the owner went ahead and built a home anyway. So there's been tied up in court. You have lots of rights of appeal in litigation. Where the town got brought into this is that the zoning board has ordered many years ago that this building be demolished. And for a number of reasons, one of which was to allow all the appeals to run. The town didn't get engaged in the decision of whether or not to demolish the home. That remained with the owner to do it. And the town took a position as recently as 2014 that it didn't want to be involved in the conversation between these neighbors, that it was the owner's responsibility to tear it down himself. Because he's never done that, and now the estate has not done that, the land court has issued an order that the town may enter this property and demolish the building and lien the costs against the property itself, the underlying real estate. Now, the specific statutory reference in the judge's decision allows a form of lien that may be converted to the tax collector's bill. So it has significant teeth as a legal instrument. And I'll stop there. The goal here is to recoup the free cash. Any free cash that is used to demolish this home would be returned to free cash when there's a transaction involving the underlying real estate.
Other questions? Sir?
Angela Rice, 829 Northwest Main Street. Can I ask, when was the last legal action taken, and was that during the time when the property fell under the estate or the previous owner? When was the last judgment given? And was that during the process of it being an estate or being owned by the owner before he passed away?
Now, I think the owner, Mr. Moderator, if I may, the owner passed away, I believe, in 2021. This final judgment of the court was handed down in 2024. Yes, it's to the estate right now.
Other questions?
Megan Layton Vandersloot, 2 Chickadee. Is this house currently condemned?
Well, it's never been occupied. It never had a building permit. Without a building permit, it could never get a certificate of occupancy. And it is under a current valid order of demolition.
You have a follow-up? Go ahead.
So the structure's already built. Why would we waste money to demolish a structure that could actually be valid? It sounds like prior, the state would like to move said property or structure.
We can handle it better.
So, Mr. Moderator, the building was built without a permit on an illegal lot. And that is the fundamental question. Municipal government doesn't work this way. You can't just plop a building on a piece of property without a building permit if it doesn't pass muster with legal requirements for a developable lot. And then because it's been there for a while, say that you have the right to keep it. So the litigation has gone on for almost 14 years now to clarify that issue. And at virtually every step, the decisions have been made on summary judgment. The courts aren't really tolerating a lot of back and forth. In fact, some impatience on the part of the court for the town's lack of action has been expressed. So the way this will work in reality is if the owner wants to move it, we have the discretion as the town, once the funds are approved by town meeting, to schedule the contract for work to be done with enough time remaining so if the owner wants to move it at his own expense, he may do so. But we're not going to wait forever, because we've waited for 14 years and all appeals have been exhausted.
Other questions?
I'm just confused. We all have this handout saying they're offering to move the house.
Yeah, so about that. I'm having a really hard time with, someone gave me something and now I want to speak to it. So if there's a specific question that you want to ask, but there's nothing official or that's been vetted by anyone in town on that piece of paper. So if there's a specific question that you have that maybe was raised because you read the paper, that's fine. But like referencing, something that's not public record is kind of.
Well, I've been actually following this case since it began. So I was just kind of interested in the whole thing, because it was implied initially by issuing the building permit that the man could build his house there. So regardless of whether he did it nefariously or whatever, it was still implied by the town that he had a building permit.
Yeah, and I will say that's been asked and answered, because basically what has been said is the permit was not a valid permit and it was null and void. So I believe that's been asked and answered.
But so if we do, all right, so I do have a question. If we do pass this, is it possible that it's not written in stone? You know, that the people...
In other words, you know, and I believe that was asked and answered as well, because Matt did say, you know, what this allows the town to do is to basically carry the big hammer, which is like, yeah, we might work with you, but at the end of the day, if it's not on our timeline and not what we want to do, then town meeting has said we can move forward with this.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, would you say that's an accurate summary?
I would say that in a wonderful game of poker that's called calling the bluff. If you're going to move it, move it. If not, we'll move it.
Other questions? Other questions? Over here. Don, you've just spoken like 10 times.
Hi, Rob Jica, 180 Wallen Lake Road. The question I have, and anybody can answer it, is if the current owner of 102 Shore Road is able to pick up the house, move it over to 105 as a temporary holding location, is there anything stopping them from doing that?
You can pass the mic back.
Well, first of all, I don't, this is maybe an inside joke, but he definitely won't be moving into 105. Because that's the neighbor who sued him. But to move it across the street, so fair question. He would have to obtain the necessary building permit for that lot. And he would have to have the septic design and other things, the typical approval process for developing a lot, including Concom. However, there's much more space across the street, so it's a much bigger lot. It's an ample building lot.
I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
But if it's only a temporary location, just like storing a trailer or a temporary mobile home, RV or something like that, is there anything actually stopping them from storing it there up on blocks on wheels?
Across the street?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Now there, I'm going to go to my building commissioner for chapter and verse.
Do you need a permit to move a house?
Yeah.
Ken Frazier, building commissioner. If you was to move the house, you would need a permit to demo the house off of its existing site.
Don't worry, I'll repeat what he said.
And then you would have to have something in play as to exactly what's going on with his property on the other side. You can't just store the house on the other side.
Okay, so it would require permitting from the town in order to demolish it off of its foundation, as well as permit to store it elsewhere. Is that correct? Okay, great. Guys, we're kind of going around here, so last one.
Angela, South Street. Just out of curiosity, with this lot, I believe it's marked 18 on the map, if they move their house across the street, this isn't any question of ownership to that lot of 18, that family would still be able to keep and access that lot even if they move the home across the street, that's correct?
Mr. Moderator?
Please.
So this is not a taking, and that is not what we would be accomplishing. They would continue to own lot 18, whatever it's on.
All right, moving on to debate. Would anyone like to speak on this article? That? She's got you. You're blocked off.
Ryan Norton, South Street. As far as I know, you said that was the last order was 2024. Owner
passed away in 21, correct? And it's still tied to an estate. That estate is still probate, is it not? Are they allowed to do anything with that property until the war is finished?
We're past Q&A, but I'll go ahead and allow that one to be answered. Please.
Mr. Moderator, Rich Bowen, Town Council. Through you to the previous speaker. The conservator or executor of the estate, assuming that person has been duly appointed, will have all the authority necessary to take any action with respect to this property that he or she needs to. So there should be no reason, due to the fact that it is in probate, that would prevent the property owner, which is now the estate, from taking appropriate action with respect to this property.
Would anyone else like to speak on the issue? The question has been moved. Again, what that means is we are ready to end discussion and move to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. The ayes clearly have it. We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. It requires a simple majority. That was a clear majority. And with that, Article 11 passes. Okay, Article 12. I'll accept the motion to transfer the sum of $200,000 from free cash for the demolition of structures located at 104 Main Street, parcel 171-24, including environmental remediation, demolition, and disposal costs. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion been made and seconded. Is there any dissent to passing this article? Okay, there is dissent. Any questions on this article? Okay, right over here.
Andrew Spain, 84 Locust Street. Why is this one so much more expensive?
So, Mr. Moderator, through you, thanks to the questioner for a good question. So this is, the budget here is not set based upon an actual quote yet. It is based upon an understanding that we'll have to do a full investigation of the building before we can move forward with demolition. So we'll have to investigate whether there's asbestos in the building, whether or not there's any lead paint, and whether or not there be any remediation needed. If so, the $200,000 is likely to be enough to cover that. With some hope, knock on wood, we wouldn't find those substances and we could move forward with standard demolition that would come in well under this budget. But I only want to come to town meeting once to ask for funds.
Other questions? Back. Busy.
Anthony Pierce, Brookside Drive. Just a quick question. Who owns the property?
Go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Moderator, thank you again for another good question. I know you think it should be a simple answer. The town of Douglas owns the property. The town, together with its water commission, purchased this property for purposes of protecting the watershed for your wellhead public water supply. So the water department has an interest in the use of this property. And there's a garage to the left. As you pull in the driveway of this property, there's a standing garage, and the water superintendent keeps equipment in there, pipes and hydrants and other things. So he's utilizing the space. This is the old office building for the old Buckeye Pipeline Company. It was most people refer to as the mobile pipeline. There was, extensive pumping controls in an office. It has been occupied for many years. And really, it's in the best interest of the watershed protection to try to get rid of what is basically a moldering old building.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to speak on the article? Okay, also seeing none, is there any dissent to passing Article 12 unanimously? Seeing none, Article 12 passes unanimously. I'll take a motion to reconsider Article 1. No, I'm just kidding. I know. Hey, don't mess with farm people who actually have eggs that they can throw at you, right? All right. And with that, I would like to remind everyone that we have many openings on our boards and committees. If you'd like to get involved, please contact Town Hall, and they'll be happy to put you somewhere. And with that, I will accept the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? There is a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those with really nothing better to do, say no.